All right, well, a very good evening, everyone, and welcome to In the Blue Corner channel. This is Vince Loccisano, and it's also good evening to Stephen Khatib. Good day, Stevie.
Evening, Vince. How are you?
And warm welcome to everyone who's watching out there. Thanks for joining us on this Monday night. We assure you that next week it'll be back to Sunday, okay? We've had a couple of Monday nights in a row, mainly because of me. But yes, thank you for joining us. And if you'd like to take part in our show at any stage this evening, please feel free to visit us on our Facebook page, In the Blue Corner, and you'll see our show going live there. And you can certainly put in your 2 bobs worth. And if you like, you can ask a question or make a comment on anything that we're talking about, or even introduce a new topic that you'd like to have discussed. Any stage you can do that. Also on our YouTube channel of the same name, In the Blue Corner. Well, Steve, Carlton Geelong, it was a big test on the weekend, and it's fair to say we learned a lot of things about ourselves, and we're not quite ready yet. I think we came up against a very mature outfit in Geelong who've been there for a number of years now. A lot of their players have played with each other for a long time, and that really did show up their class and I guess the class difference between their team and ours at the moment.
Yeah, I would certainly agree with that. Their system was really rock solid. The interesting part, on paper, you could preview that match and talk about probably winning the midfield on paper, and then having the forward line to probably dominate and capitalise on the midfield victories.
Yeah.
And really, the end of the day, on paper means nothing, because when it came to the battle, the combination of Geelong's halfback line, even without Tom Stewart, and their midfields, and just the ability for them to, win the contest around the ball and then have others chipping in numbers around the ball, and just really the back line and the midfield really working well together, leveraging off each other, really showed up a Carlton team that was really, probably more about on the night individuals rather than a team effort. That was certainly my take on the game. It probably exposed some of the passengers that we probably got away with in previous games against probably weaker teams, but on Saturday night it showed up that unless you had that whole 22 effort brought to the ground, you can't match it with the better sides.
Yeah, look, it was being promoted.
Do you have other thoughts?
Sorry?
Do you agree with that, or do you have any other thoughts?
No, I do agree with that. And look, what was disappointing to me was that I guess it was being promoted during the week as a blockbuster, and I think it was anything but a blockbuster on Saturday night. It was a bit of a fizzer, really, to be honest. We got off to a reasonable start. In the first quarter, I think at one stage they were 3-1, but then we kicked 3 in a row to actually hit the lead at quarter time. I think that was probably our best quarter, because the next 2 quarters we were just completely outplayed. I think they kicked something like 7-2, and there in itself was the 5-goal difference in the end. And they honestly could have won by a lot more. It was a 5-goal loss that probably felt more like a 10-goal loss, to be honest. I think their class just prevailed in the end. We were being swarmed by their I guess their midfield and their team defence. We hardly seemed to have much time to execute what we wanted, and that's where we created that many turnovers, and they scored incredibly off our turnovers. I think they scored something like 10 goals off turnover. So, our disposal efficiency went down, especially after quarter time. I think went down to near 50%. So you're not going to win too many games doing that sort of thing. And I think actually, you know what a telling stat is, Steve? Guess how many players they had in their team that were 30 years of age or over?
Guess. I would say 5. Would that be right? 6?
Double it.
That many?
And guess how many were in our side at age 30 or more? 0.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, our list demographics
Now,
sort of mid-20s. Yep.
It's my theory at the moment that Geelong has got a lot of Carlton 1995 about it, because 2 years ago they lost the grand final that, it's a bit like Carlton in 93 when we lost to Essendon.
The Baby Bombers, that's right.
Then the following year we were expected to do better. We made the finals, but then we went out in straight sets. And Geelong last year made the finals and, failed to make the grand final last year in 2021. And then I think it was, did they win a final last year? I think Melbourne beat them in the qualifying final. I think they might have lost the next week as well, didn't they? I'm trying to remember. Yeah. But anyway, regardless of whether they did or not, they didn't make it through to the grand final. This year, they've got a lot of those ageing stars, such as Selwood at 34 and Hawkins at 33 and Dangerfield, same sort of thing. I think he's 32, 33. There's lots of others in that team. Guthrie, Mitch Duncan, Menegola. They're all 30 or above. And it's got that same feel that Carlton did in 95 when we had Kernahan and Bradley and Spalding and Williams and Madden and Silvani, and all these guys were, maybe not Silvani. I think he might have been 28. But anyway, Peter Dean, that sort of player. We had a lot of senior players that were well into their 30s, and it was like their last chance in 95, and they just knew that it was either now or never. And I've got a feeling that that's what Geelong's working towards at the moment. They look like a side that really means business. They've won 8 in a row. What did Carlton win in 95? 16 in a row. So,
except for those 2 games,
these last 5 rounds plus maybe 2 or 3 finals, it might be the same sort of thing for them.
Did Geelong have
that same feel about them? That's all. They've just got a very good synergy.
Did Geelong have that St Kilda and Sydney blip? Type of blip that Carlton had in 95, if you remember.
Oh, right. I don't know about that. I can't even remember the last game they lost because it's now 8 weeks in a row that they've won. So, anyway, look, we're not here to talk about them, but they just came across to me to be a very mature outfit, had clearly played a lot of football with each other. They understand each other's games. That's where I think we lack a little bit. There's not enough of our players that have played in the same team together for long enough. So we're a work in progress. We know where we're at now, that we're not quite up at that top 4 level. In the next 2 weeks, we should win them. So it'll keep us right up there in that top 5 or 6. But, that's if we can achieve those 2 wins against GWS and Adelaide. But then those final 3 games are going to be a huge test where we play Brisbane in Brisbane, Melbourne down here, and then Collingwood down here to finish off the season. So, you wouldn't want to lose too many of them.
No, that's right. I think 2 wins would guarantee finals. Probably 1 win would, but 2 would definitely. Yeah. And then the remaining 3 games would, certainly determine the standings within that top 8. Yeah, look, I agree with you around the number of games that the players have played together, but I also probably think that, whether it be a little bit of lack of personnel because of injuries, but also all teams go through that, or simply maybe not quite the depth in personnel. I think,
don't forget they were missing Tom Stewart as well.
Absolutely.
Very important player in their defence. So they didn't seem to miss him on Saturday night.
Well,
done very well to cover him so far.
If you look at the way the ball and Scott definitely coached really, really well, didn't he? But if you look at the way the ball did come in when Carlton did have possession, they certainly got numbers in the defence so that it wasn't an open forward line where the forwards were roaming and leading separate. It was almost like Curnow and Mackay were very compact and close to each other. The defence was set. They had a spare there as well. So the service that those big forwards received wasn't anything like the week
wasn't
before.
Flash, was it? I mean, Harry had a bit of a stinker, to be honest, on Saturday night. Charlie started off well. He had 3 goals within, a few minutes of the second quarter, but then he really didn't do anything after that. So, I agree. I think they restricted our spread. We just couldn't get any spread out wide. They dominated. It just felt like they were swarming us whenever we had the ball. Their pressure on the ball carrier was outstanding. Yeah,
absolutely. And we could probably manage that for only very small periods of the game at most.
I thought the crucial moment was when in the second quarter they were, I think, 2 goals up. Was it the second quarter? I'm trying to think. Anyway, they were 2 goals. It was something like 50-38. And it might have been the third. And I think Doherty got caught holding the ball when we were trying to transition the ball out with hand passes. But then eventually they just, the swarm just caught up with us. And Doherty ended up getting caught in a tackle and was deemed holding the ball. And then we gave away a 50-metre penalty straight after that. And then Guthrie kicked the goal and put them 3 goals up. That was a huge moment in the game, I thought, because then after that they kicked another 2, and all of a sudden from 2 goals down we were 5 goals down, and the game was just seemingly lost.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It was around that period we needed to come back and try and come back after half time, and we just couldn't really fire a shot, unfortunately.
Yeah. And I think the last of those 3 goals, Jeremy Cameron kicked one over his right shoulder on the left foot and on the boundary line, and just incredible goal. So they've certainly been tinkering with their team to try and find the right formula to win a flag. I mean, Chris Scott's been there since his first year of 2011, where he did win the flag. And I think to some extent what's been largely thought of in the football world is that he took over a champion team anyway. It was like anyone could have coached them. I don't agree with that, but he coached them to a premiership in his first year off the back of what Mark Thompson had achieved with the Geelong team in the previous 5-6 years. But since then, Geelong has been very successful in staying up there in the top 8, competing in final series, one after another.
Yep.
Made a grand final in 2020, weren't good enough to beat Richmond, but geez, they've been up there for a long time, and they've managed to do it without very many low draft picks. Like we've got that many, single-digit draft picks in our team. It's not funny, is it?
If you look at the recruiting,
Wiedering, Walsh,
Yeah, if you look at the recruiting at Geelong, it's definitely some of the senior players that they've brought in have been really strategically handpicked, a bit like Hawthorn had done in sort of that sort of 2012, 13, 14 period.
Yeah.
Picked a player specifically for a need and really targeted that player. Didn't even pay overs for them.
No.
Maybe Cameron probably would be the only one, but it's been amazing. It's been really, really shrewd.
Yeah, very much so. All right, well, we should just quickly go over the results. If I can get my screen up. Oh, don't know what's happened to my screen here. Anyway, I guess maybe you can help me there, Steve. Mine seems to have frozen.
Well,
here we go.
In the first quarter, what were we 5 points down at? Was it 5 points?
Yeah, no, I've got it here. Yep. First quarter time, we were 4 goals, 125 to 3-4, 22.
Yep.
Then Geelong went and scored 4 goals to 1 in the second quarter to finish up at 7-6, 48 to 5-1, 31 with a 17-point lead at half time. Certainly not an insurmountable lead, but I guess the writing was on the wall.
A few goals late in that quarter. There was a few goals late in that second half of that quarter too that really broke them open a little bit for them.
Yeah. It was in the third quarter that I was talking about all those goals. They kicked another 3 goals, 2.
Yep.
To go to 10-8-68, and we again only scored the 1 goal. So those 2 middle quarters, we only managed a goal in each one. So 6 goals, 339. So 29 points down at 3/4 time. Again, not what you'd call an insurmountable lead, but, gee, there's something had to change in a dramatic fashion for us to get back in the game. And in the last quarter, it was pretty even. Geelong 2 goals, 5 to our 2 goals, 4. So ended up being a 30-point victory. And by the way, that's exactly what I predicted last week, if you recall, when we went through our predictions. I think you might have said Geelong by 2 goals, and I said Geelong by 5. So I'll take the credit for that.
Look, mate.
The only problem is I didn't have any money on it.
That's always the way, isn't it?
Always.
Not that you have to bet or anything like that, of course.
No, we don't encourage any betting. But, yeah, there you go. Now, how about we go through some players? I mean, who did you think really stood up for us on the night, and who did you think was disappointing?
Mackay was really disappointing. I thought as much as they did, as much as DeConing for Geelong, took, a handful of intercept marks and certainly played a good game on him. Mackay's body work was really poor. On him, I thought. I thought Curnow tried hard all night, but he probably is just his first few quarters that were really influential, and we really needed him to continue that on. But he was pretty much a lone hand. Saad was probably again one of our better players. Worked really hard. Didn't have a lot of friends though in the back line wherever he tried to run and create, and there wasn't anyone really around to hit up. So I'd give Saad a vote. I thought Cripps also tried hard for the night, but again, not a lot of influence in the game.
I've heard a lot of criticism about Cripps's game.
No, I wouldn't completely take that notice of that, Vince. But what was your view on that?
I always think Cripps tries hard. I do wonder whether he's back to the sort of knocked about body that he was carrying in 2021, because he was it confirmed last year that he was running around with fractures in his back and all sorts of other injuries, and he had to be juiced up like a horse before a race. Yeah. I do wonder whether his body's taken a battering since the start of the year, because at the start of the year he was moving so much more freely and seemed to be, in career best form, and it just seems to have tapered off in the last 8 or 9 weeks. And interestingly, we also see that at the start of the year he was kicking a lot more goals, and now all of a sudden that's dried up as well. You might get the odd one, and I think he kicked a really nice goal on Saturday night, by the way, on the left. But yeah, we're not seeing the 2 and 3 goal statistic at the end of his name at the end of a game. Now it's maybe 1 if you're lucky, and even how often he's getting the ball is starting to dry up a bit more. I think he had less than 20 possessions on Saturday night.
He tried really hard, and so did Walsh. Both of them tried really, really hard. I find it pretty hard to criticise. I've got a comment here regarding from Annette.
Hello, Annette. Thanks for joining us.
Yep.
Or is it that he is missing Pitternet?
Yeah. So
what, Cripps is missing Pitternet? I don't know. I thought DeConing actually battled quite hard. I thought DeConing was one of our better players on the night, to be honest.
Yeah.
And he was up against 2 of them from Geelong.
Yeah, I was going to give DeConing a couple of votes, to be honest. I thought he tried really hard. I think that it's, it's pretty hard. Geelong have got some decent ruck stocks, haven't they? And it made it very difficult for him on his own.
Yeah. It'll be interesting, Annette, to see when Pitnet comes back, and I wouldn't mind betting that he's even back as early as this week. Yeah, they might give him one more game in the VFL. I'm not sure. Both he and McGovern came back to the VFL on the weekend and seemed to do pretty well. But it'd be interesting to see whether we rush them back in or whether we feel that that they need another game in the VFL just to tune them up from a match conditioning point of view. But eventually you'd think that they'll be back in the team. So it'd be interesting to see whether Cripps does improve with Pitnet back in the side or not. Let's keep an eye out on that, shall we, in the next few weeks?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think it's not just Pitnet on his own. I think it just gives that extra ruck and they can rest, right? I think that's the balance that you're looking for. A comment from Gina here. What were your thoughts on
Hayes getting 2 weeks? Look, I don't know. The club's deemed fit not to challenge that. I see that the match review officer has given Will Hayes 2 weeks for that hit that resulted in Menegola going off the ground and having to be subbed out with concussion. So that didn't help him. Maybe the club just thought, what's the point of challenging it? You're not going to probably win.
Also, Menegola essentially won't probably play next week, right?
Yeah.
So, and
unlikely to be overturned.
Yeah, and essentially missed the whole game.
Yeah.
And
misses next week. So technically they've lost 2 weeks with him.
Yeah. The look wasn't good, was it? It wasn't like he tried to roll him.
No.
It was Will
straight
wrestling.
Down. I think Will Hayes, if Will Hayes was Patrick Cripps or Sam Walsh or, George Hewitt, maybe they would have challenged it. I don't know.
Yeah,
I tend to think that it does matter. Call me a cynic if you want, but I think it does matter how important you are to the team as to whether the club will go in and spend the money required to appeal a sentence like that.
But in the act of tackling also, it showed his inexperience a little bit because if you're going to make him earn it, as they say, you cuddle him, you roll him, and pretend to protect him a little bit, right? He just threw him forward. I don't think you can really defend that one.
Maybe they should go to the Northern Territory and practice rolling around with crocodiles in the lakes up there, because that's what the crocs tend to do. They'll roll you over. Anyway, I see where you're coming from, Steve. What about other players that were prominent on the night? We'll go into our best players soon when we do the votes, but other players that you thought were disappointing? You said Harry Mackay. Anyone else?
I thought Harry Mackay was probably Chera was disappointing, or considering he had a big week the week before. I think there was a lot of players that were disappointing. I thought Silvani tried hard.
How do you reckon Wiedering went?
Look, first up after a
did his job. Ultimately, he did his job.
Yeah, I thought it was fair. I think you don't want to be too harsh on him first game back.
Second game back.
Pardon me, second game.
He played last week against West Coast, yeah.
Pardon me, you're right. Yeah, but
I thought Durden didn't do a lot, and I do wonder. I know that Owies has been out injured, but having young Durden and young Motlop, I think what are they, 18 and 19? I just wonder about the level of inexperience there as our crumbing forwards.
Those players, I think a coach would bring them in for maybe a set of a block of weeks, and then if they start to look tired, have to rest them. But we haven't really had the luxury, Vince, of having a lot of small forwards to take through. So maybe that'll.
What about Nunes and Cottrell? They're always subject to criticism, those two.
Cottrell tried hard again early in the game. Broke some lines and was creative. I thought Cottrell tried really hard again. Added that speed and that ability to really get up and down the ground. He was certainly very, very good. Well, when I say very good, I don't mean a match winner, but certainly, wasn't someone that you could point the finger at first.
Three kicks and 10 hand passes.
Yeah, tackles. Yeah, it was a fair performance.
Probably a bit less output than you'd normally get from Cottrell.
Yeah.
Nunes, 12 possessions, 3 tackles. What do you think of him?
No, I didn't think he added much. I think Newman was poor as well. I thought he was. I mean, he's built his game around sort of setting up that kick. That on that 45 or that he was poor. Again, Saad didn't have many friends running through the back there either. So, when they needed more help to definitely for us to set up attacks, and it really played into Geelong's hands with all that pressure.
Did you hear the wolf resonating around the MCG every time Saad kicked the ball?
I did.
It's back. I can tell you it's back. Thanks to Rocco and Paul and Mars at the Jumper Punch mainly, even though the club's trying to take all the credit for it. They're the ones that started it, I can assure you.
How would that surprise me?
Does that surprise you that the club's trying to sort of muscle in and take the credit for it all?
Is that the PR department? Is it? Which one is it? Which one of the 3 PR firms taking the credit there?
I don't know. Maybe just ring up Tony DeBolfo and ask him. Anyway, what about Stocker? He came into the team. How do you think he acquitted himself after being out for quite a number of weeks, after being dropped and being made to earn his spot back in the team?
Oh, I thought he battled hard. He wasn't the worst player out there, but I don't think he'd send you back straight away. I think you got to persist with him.
So you play him again this week against GWS?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
What about yourself?
I agree. I think they've got to try and identify exactly where his best position is in that team and what role they expect of him and make it clear. He's one of these players that sort of, I don't know, he's having a bit of an identity crisis about where he belongs in this team. I just wonder. They seem to be playing him in a back pocket, but I just don't know. I mean, we recruited him as a midfielder. So makes you wonder, doesn't it?
And with a different coach, you'll always get a different opinion. But we have been, decimated in the back line. So, unfortunately, on a match-by-match situation, you need to plug holes where required.
Yeah.
It's disappointing, though, for a player like that. I mean, he'll obviously play his role and do the best, but
yep.
You might play in the VFL and then have to come in and be plugging a hole in the back pocket. It's not easy, is it?
No, that's true. All right. Well, let's get to the players that we thought were better on the night and give our votes and special mentions. I suppose you'd call them that.
Just got a comment.
To give you 3, 2, 1, 2.
Just got a comment here on Stocker.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
You're right.
Go for
it. Yep. From Ross and Angela Fiore. Leave Stocker in the team. Plowman needs to go if McGovern returns. Well, Plowman definitely...
Well, that's an interesting one. What do you think of Plowman's game?
Gee, it's easy to pile on him, isn't it? But, slow at times.
A lot of people do.
Plowman by name, sometimes Plowman by nature. When he's ploughing, he really is slow at times. And I think I don't think people...
Is there room in the team for both McGovern and Plowman in the same defence?
They knock his disposal, Plowman, but I think it's his reading of the game and his speed that's the problem, his awareness. I think that's my view. No, it probably isn't. I would suggest. And then when he does get caught out, he coughs it up, very, very easily. So, anyway.
All right. Thanks for that opinion. Plowman should be replaced by McGovern and leave Stocker in the team. interesting perspective. Be interesting to see what happens at selection on Thursday night. All right.
That's going to be the interesting thing, right? I mean, let's really think about it here. The coach has probably found out a little bit about some players that he maybe didn't necessarily know, were 100% the genuine article.
Yeah.
And in a big game,
you find out a lot about your players when you lose.
Yeah, and then it's about looking at that now. In the VFL, there was a victory there.
Yes.
So,
VFL team won by 11 points, I believe, 10-10-70 to Geelong's 9-5-59. So it was a good win in the end. I think they won really only in the last few minutes, and Mitch McGovern, I believe, took a telling mark and kicked the goal right at the end.
Yeah, and the usual suspects played well in the VFL that probably aren't getting in. Setterfield, Dow, all of those household names in the VFL, essentially. And
Setterfield got 40 possessions.
That's right.
Surely that warrants a call-up, doesn't it?
But where are you going to play him? Is a big body type of mid, right? So where are they going to? If they would bring him in, would you drop another mid? I don't know. If the midfield really should get completely made an example of just over that one performance.
Well, someone's going to have to come in for Will Hayes. So it might be him. Or it might be Paddy Dow.
Don't start that whole debate again, Vince.
I'm just telling you, it might be. It depends on what they want when they select the team. Whether they want to add the ruckman in Pitnet, whether they want to add the intercept backman in McGovern, whether they want another midfielder in there to replace Hayes with. Who plays on Toby Green? Yes, good question, Ross and Angela. Well, that's a good question. So who do you think will play on him?
Well, you couldn't put Plowman on him, could you?
That's exactly who I would suggest.
No, I don't think so.
Look, no, that's exactly who I'm suggesting.
Look, we previously had played.
Who else is capable of playing on Toby Green other than him? Really, think about it.
Look, you're right, but previously we'd played Plowman on Green, but I just think Plowman's getting slower and slower and slower. And look, you're really. I mean, Green could have a picnic. Green, you're really testing it, Vince, because Green could have an absolute picnic quite quickly on him if he's not on his game.
He's one of these players that we've always found hard to match up on. It's a bit like Liam Ryan from West Coast. Whenever we play West Coast and Liam Ryan's in the team, so he wasn't playing last week. If he was, they would have had a lot of extra firepower up forward. The previous time we played West Coast in Sydney, if you remember, Liam Ryan was one of the reasons we lost the game. We just did not have a matchup on him. But I think Newman might be the other one.
Yeah, the challenge with playing someone on Green, and Carlton's not the only team that has this problem, right? Is you've got a lead up type of forward that when the ball hits the ground plays like a small forward,
plays like a midfielder.
Yeah. Absolutely. So it's a real challenging type of matchup, isn't it?
It is indeed. Yeah. No, look, I personally love watching Toby Green play. I think he's fantastic to watch and never a dull moment, really. No. But it'll be interesting to see who we do match up on him. Maybe it's Liam Stocker. Maybe he's the one that they'll put on Toby Green just to see if he's good enough.
Yeah, probably.
It'd be a big test for him, a big challenge.
It would be because we've got, what have you got? Young's probably tall. He probably takes more of the taller forward, right? And Wiedering's probably more that centre half back position.
He'll be on Jesse Hogan and Himmelberg and guys like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But you see, Toby Green's almost like a sort of a high half forward come midfielder. I mean, he can be anything he wants to be.
I'd like to see Sard on him, but the problem is you lose.
No, surely not.
No, you lose No, I wouldn't like to see it, but I'm saying if you could have two Sarge, you could have Sarge that could stay with him and defend, because I think he's really improved that part of his game. But then you lose the run off the half back line.
Yeah, I reckon it'll either go to Plowman if he's in the team, or if he's not in the team, it's probably going to be either Stocker or Newman. But I personally believe Plowman's the best matchup for him. That's me.
Yeah, I would have agreed with you back in the day, but I just think the game is passing Plowman by very quickly. Anyway.
All right. Well, it won't be a picnic against GWS. I mean, yes, they're not going to make finals, and they've only won, 5 games for the year. But nevertheless, they've been freed up by their interim coach, Mark McVeigh, to go out and play free-flowing football. And to me, that's always going to be a dangerous side to play. So, it's not that long ago that they played 16 men on the field and still beat us.
100 points. Yeah.
Oh, anyway, that's bad memories. Thank God that's all over. All right, let's get your votes. 3, 2, 1. Who do you fancy?
Okay, I caveat this by saying that it's pretty tough to pick 3 players that stand out. Hard to pick
players that actually played for 4 quarters, really, to be honest.
That's what I'm trying to say. So everyone's going to say, all the comments have probably come in, including from yourself, that'll be against it. But anyway.
That's all right.
Look, I think Curnow was good in the first half, but didn't go on with it. But he's still good enough to have good a vote. I'll give him a vote for the first half.
You're going to give Curnow a vote, are you?
I'm going to give Curnow a vote. I know you
kicking 3 goals, 2 from 7 kicks.
Yeah, well, who else got a kick in the forward line?
Does he deserve a Canberra TV like Robert Klomp back in 1981?
Who did they? What was it? That was when they got the.
Lou Richards gave Robert Klomp a Canberra television for best on the ground, and he got something like 7
What
possessions.
What he got about it? 5 kicks or something? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
very.
If you got the balance, if you got the Toscan luggage, it would have been maybe okay for 7 kicks. Or the Valentine's chocolates, maybe the Patra orange juice, but not the Canberra.
Yes, for those of you who don't know what the hell we're talking about, we're just going down memory lane about 40 years. Okay. So you're going to give Charlie Curnow 1 vote. Who got your 2 votes?
Sard for 2, and I'll
Sard
give De Conning 3 for battling hard in the ruck.
And De Conning 3, wow.
Or De Conning, whoever you want to call him.
I had 3 completely different players.
I was thinking of giving something to Cripps, but you almost changed my mind. You're criticising him so much on this show, so there you go.
I went 3 votes to Sam Walsh. He was everywhere. He had 33 possessions. He had 4 tackles. He had 12 contested possessions. I just thought he was probably close to our best 4-quarter player.
Okay.
I gave 2 to Sam Doherty. He was our best defender, in my view. Prolific ball winner. Again, tackled, I think 4 tackles as well.
Yep.
Yeah, I thought he was our shining light in defence. And I gave 3 votes to George Hewitt. So there you go. We're all different, aren't we? But special mentions to Tom De Conning and Zach Fisher. I thought Zach Fisher played a pretty good game too.
Yeah, I thought.
So were we watching the same game, or?
I thought Fisher coughed it up. I thought Fisher coughed it up way too often.
Oh, they all made mistakes. I'm just looking at what they did well.
Okay.
So, yeah. I mean, look, it was again, as you quite rightly pointed out, hardly anyone played 4 quarters, but it was a very difficult game to give votes on. What does everyone else think? Give us yours. Okay, Walsh for 3, Hewitt for 2. Ross has gone for pretty close to what I had. 1 to De Conning. That's great. Anyone else can feel free to give us your votes on who you thought were the 3, 2, 1. Tony Mandy, 3 votes for the umpires.
Oh, look, there was a couple of soft decisions there.
Do you really think the umpires cost us that match? I think
no, the umpires didn't cost us the game. definitely not. But there was a couple of that one where Selwood, they got that downfield free kick where Selwood pushed Selwood in the. I mean, that was
the crowd went nuts on that one, booing like crazy, weren't they?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
So it was that was probably soft, and maybe it was a couple of head highs that weren't head high, but that's probably pretty much commonplace at the moment anyway. But
the fact that we're struggling to find players to give votes to probably suggests that when it's Brownlow medal night and this game comes up, it's probably going to be 3 Geelong players that get the 3-2-1.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, also let's
funnily enough, Selwood would be probably the one getting 3.
Yeah, let's get the paradigm too, right? Essentially, we're looking at this game, and you've come off the back of a West Coast game, where you could argue on probably raffle the votes amongst sort of 10 or 15 players. So it's a very different week, isn't it?
Yep, sure is. All right. Now, next week, GWS. What are your thoughts about that game? Sunday, 1:10 p.m. at Marvel Stadium, the ground that we seem to play our best football on. I don't think we've lost the game there this year. What have we lost now? 6 games. I think 2 of them were interstate against Gold Coast and Fremantle. I think the other 4 might have all been at the MC. Oh, no. 1 game we lost to St Kilda at Marvel. That's it.
Yes. Yeah. Look,
the other 3 were all at the MCG against Collingwood, Richmond, and now Geelong.
Yeah. We should be too, overall we should be too good for them. Whether the game goes one of 2 ways, we get out of the blocks pretty fast and, have one or 2 quarters. Probably normally one quarter where we sort of kick 6 or 7 or 8 goals and really put them to the sword, or they make it really difficult and we wear them down and run away with it. That's probably the way it's going to go. But I can't see them playing 4 quarters, whether it be the first 2, whether us beating them, in the first 2 or the last 2. I think that's predominantly. I think we'll just have too much skill for them, and especially with the forward line, they won't have 2 bad weeks like that. I wouldn't have thought. We've
always responded to. I think it's for the last 7 games now that we've had win, loss, win, loss, win, loss. It's we're due for a win again. We've always responded in previous weeks, and I expect us to respond again this week. But you wouldn't want to take GWS too lightly. I know they haven't had as good a season this year, but a little bit like Essendon. In recent weeks, Essendon has shown that they're a capable football side when they put it all together, and they've actually beaten some pretty good teams above them on the ladder in recent weeks. And GWS is just as capable of doing that. I mean, they made finals last year as well. Yeah.
Look, I wouldn't take them too lightly, but I think if we're any bit serious about making finals and winning a final at least at the very minimum. This game is one you need to win. Reasonably.
I think the next 2 weeks are going to be crucial. To cementing that finals place. This game against GWS is the first of those 2, and of course Adelaide in Adelaide, and that won't be a walk in the park either.
No.
And then comes 3 pretty difficult games against Brisbane in Brisbane, Melbourne at the MCG, and then Collingwood at the MCG. You wouldn't want to be risking a place in the final 8 by the time that last game comes around, would you?
No, definitely not. Look, the positive is that all the teams below Carlton are trying to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory almost in making.
Well, Richmond's doing a pretty good job of that at the moment.
Absolutely. I mean,
snatching defeat out of the jaws of victory. I mean, how did they lose to North Melbourne on the weekend? It's unbelievable. Yeah. And how many times do we see teams that sack their coach come out the following week with an interim coach and win? It happens all the time.
And then they dedicated it to Noble.
Oh, yeah. Does that make you cringe? I saw one of the players, one of the North Melbourne players on TV saying, "Oh, this one's for you, Nobes. You know, you deserve it."
Yeah.
I felt like saying, "What? He needed you to play like that all the previous weeks, not the week after he just got the ass." I mean, honestly, it just makes you sick when these players come out and say things like that.
No,
we dedicated this to Nobes. He didn't deserve to be sacked. Well, you lost 14 in a row, which led to his sacking.
No,
and then the week you get sacked, you come out and show what you're really capable of.
They should have said,
"What's wrong with you people?"
They should have said, "How gutless are we?" It essentially, they should have actually been honest and said, "How gutless are we? We
feel ashamed of ourselves for performing like we did today, when this is what we should have been doing over the last 14 weeks."
Yeah, absolutely. That would have been more believable than the "this is for you, Nobes." Come on, really?
Oh, it makes you. Oh, geez, I don't know.
I mean
really, if I was a North Melbourne supporter, I'd have booed them off.
Well, but the narrative with the president going down to the race.
Of course, the president's going to want to,
everyone loves a winner, don't they?
Entrench their own position by going down there and being all part of the victory celebrations. Yeah.
Oh,
it's amazing how we didn't see her for the previous 14 weeks, did we?
Yeah, unbelievable that. I mean, they just scapegoated him. There's obviously bigger issues.
Let's talk about this. Let's talk about this a little.
Well, three recruiters walked. There's issues galore. They turned all the assistant coaches over. There were all sorts of problems at the club.
Big question marks over the CEO too, apparently.
Yep, I'm not suggesting Noble was perfect and the best coach in the league. Obviously, he wasn't. But, I mean, come on. They just scapegoated him. And then she made comments to say how she felt the playing list was really, really good. Well, on paper, they may have been in her eyes, but they certainly weren't performing that way. I mean, that is, this is getting too much now. You've got a coach like Teague was sacked because allegedly he was too soft on the players.
Mm-hmm.
Just using Teague as an example here, right?
Yeah.
And then Noble's too hard on the players.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all this. There's too much about this player-centered feedback that has to be given out. And even after the game against Collingwood, where they nearly won, he was just pretty much a dead man walking anyway, because they got Walsh in as a consultant to come and make.
They wanted him out.
Yep.
And when they almost beat Collingwood, they thought, we dodged the bullet there. We got time to sack him quickly because it looks like they're coming good.
Yeah, absolutely. The players are actually playing a bit better, and we quickly got to get this consultant in so we get blood off our hands.
How the hell do they justify sacking the coach after the team almost pulled off a fantastic win against Collingwood? How does that happen?
Yeah,
I mean, that only happens when the board's already made up its mind before that game was even played.
Yes, that's right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And
it's like what happened to Brett Ratton in 2012. I'm telling you now.
Yeah.
His papers were stamped weeks before.
That Gold Coast
went and lost to Gold Coast on the Gold Coast.
That was mathematically
on fine weight. That's it. They sacked him straight away.
Yeah, you're right. They were.
And do you know what happened the week before that? By the way, Steve, do you know what happened the week before that Gold Coast game where Brett Ratton got sacked?
I'm trying to remember the game before that. That would be 2012 now, aren't we? So we played St Kilda in that final game. We had Gold Coast up there in that game.
Brett Ratton was sacked the week after we lost to Gold Coast by, I think it was 12 points.
Yep.
Okay.
And the week before, I'm just trying to remember.
The week before, we smashed Essendon by 96
That's
points.
Right. Sorry.
At the
MCG.
You're right.
Yep.
Now, coach, tell me any other coach in the history of football that got sacked 10 days after beating a traditional rival by 16 goals.
Yeah, I remember that game. You're right.
I mean, pretty much a 100-point win.
Yeah.
How the hell do you justify sacking your coach when you've smashed the opposition by 16 goals the week before? Then you have a loss by 2 goals and they sack him. Come on. They'd already made up their mind. And they already had his replacement already lined up.
The spectre of Nick Molehouse. Yep, spectre of him. Yep.
No doubt about it. Absolutely none.
Yeah. So why not be honest?
This is how boards operate. I think that's what we're trying to bring to light here, isn't it?
Yeah, I think this is where you're going. Then you're right. Essentially, it's the scapegoating. It's
never our fault. It's the coach. It's never our fault. It's the CEO. It's never our fault. It's the list management. It's everyone else's fault but ours.
So surely there's absolutely. Surely there's a percentage of fault that needs to be looked at beyond just the one or two people, and they need to talk about all the walkouts, all the staff turnover, all the issues that they've had previously, in all of that. Which I don't know if the consultant's remit is there to look at that. Maybe they just pick the consultant to fix that one problem. Pretty cowardly though, and I'd be extremely disappointed if I was a North supporter. I just think that it just goes to show the next coach, if he or she tries to do something that's revolutionary and go out there and fix the football club.
Hey, tell me something. By the way,
grassroots up, like they were talking about Clarkson, and Luke Hodge said. Yes. Luke Hodge said, well, don't think Alistair Clarkson's going to go to a club with all the trouble behind the scenes. He wants the board, the footy department, all of that right, and he'll come in and do his thing with that landscape.
Yeah. So he needs a stable board, a stable administration, a very well-run football club, good administration within the football department, and then he can do his thing as a senior coach. But if he's going to come in there and have to attend to all of those issues as well, then forget it.
Absolutely. Sorry, you were going to ask me something, Vince.
No, what I was going to ask you was about, do you remember North Melbourne people have had a big win on the weekend, but surely their memories aren't that short. Reece Shaw, I think, took over as a coach once, and I think he won his first game in charge, didn't he?
Yes.
I'm pretty sure he did.
He did. I think he won that first game, and it was
after Brad Scott resigned or retired.
Yeah,
or whatever.
That's right. And Brad Scott went in interesting circumstances too there. Like no support, that same situation, right? And then, oh my word, it just doesn't change.
Can I ask you one other question about North Melbourne?
Yep.
Is it beyond the realms of possibility to see them fold and be another Fitzroy, or have to be merged with an interstate team like Gold Coast or a brand new team in Tasmania or something like that?
Well, I'll say this: if the AFL want to fold a club, they could hold. Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say they could fold. Like that. I wouldn't say they'd fold traditional Melbourne club in the top 8 or anything like that. But if they want to, they can. Yep. They can just make life extremely difficult for anyone, should they wish.
Can you see them losing patience with North Melbourne and saying that's it? You either relocate to Tasmania, or you relocate to to Gold Coast, or you're out. We're gonna let you fold.
Okay. Well, if they relocate north to Tassie, as an example, do the Tassie supporters just accept? Oh, that's okay.
A relocated team.
Yeah. When they really want their own green jumper with a devil on it. And something that they can call their own, but the AFL have just thrown them a bone and said, "Oh, here you go. You can have
North Melbourne.
Yeah, you can have North Melbourne. Take that, or and if you don't like
call it the Tassie Kangaroos or Tassie Kangaroos.
I don't know if they will embrace that team or they'll hope that will occur. But
so is it better then that they do what Fitzroy did and go to a traditional non-football state like Queensland, and that's what happened to Fitzroy. They ended up becoming the Brisbane Lions, and would it work better if it was the Gold Coast Kangaroos merged with Gold Coast?
Merge? Why do you need to merge a team with Gold Coast though? Because Gold
Coast, the same way that they merged Brisbane with Fitzroy.
Well, what's the benefit?
They say merge. It's really a takeover. Let's be honest.
But what's the benefit? The only benefit is the AFL to wash their conscience to say, we didn't kill you completely, North. You're still alive in some shape or form.
I don't think that they would do that to North Melbourne unless they had another team ready to come in. So, in other words, the 18 teams remains 18 teams. It's just a different 18 teams. So, one goes out, one goes in. So, Tasmania comes in, North Melbourne goes up to the Gold Coast and merges with them.
You're starting to talk about buys now, and the problem with the buy system.
What I'm trying to say is that I don't see them bringing in a Tasmanian team on its own and making it a 19-team competition. They've either got to bring a 20th team as well, maybe one that's up in the Northern Territory or Cairns or Canberra or somewhere like that, or they've got to bring one in and then fold another one in Victoria.
And exactly what I was going to say was you can have that mid-season buy, but if you have buys where a team has one in round 1, 2, 3, 4, it's not going to work because
we had that a few years ago when we only had, I think it was 15 teams from memory.
Yeah.
Before they brought in Port Adelaide, I think when they brought in Fremantle for a couple of years, we had 15 teams.
Yeah.
From memory, or was it when we had Adelaide? I can't remember. Anyway. Yeah. The fact of the matter is, it doesn't really work well when there's an uneven amount of teams and you got buys. Everyone has a turn to have a buy. We didn't really like that, did we?
No, and then you've got the mid-season buy as well.
And the end of season buy before the finals start. So you've got buys all over the place.
Yeah,
there's more. Yeah, there's more buys there than at a swingers party. Anyway. Thought you'd like that joke, but you didn't even react to it.
Sorry.
Hey, guys. Sorry I'm late to the party. That's okay, Cassandra. Better late than never. Where do you think North have gone wrong? Why are they in this position, in your opinions?
I'll answer this one.
All right,
I think they're so obsessed with they were so obsessed with landing a big fish of a player back in when they went for Dustin Martin. They went for a numerous amount of players. They ended up getting Polak, if you remember, from Port.
Polak from Port, and what was the other one from Port?
The halfback, Petard. They got Petard. I think they got that. They were so intent on landing those sort of players, and what they really needed to do was just do what they do best and build their
organically
list.
Grow some new talent.
Also, the challenge they had was you got 100% salary cap, and they're probably paying 90-odd%, low 90s of that salary cap. So you've got to find almost somewhere to spend that money, don't you? And that was where they were sort of throwing a lot of money at players that probably didn't deserve it, realistically speaking. So, look, I think that's where they got it wrong. It was, and they were in the finals, and I mean, we're going back quite a few years now, but they were in the finals sort of, if you remember, they won
under Brad Scott back in the earlier part of that decade, the 2010 to 2015 decade.
Yeah, and they had their aging stars, and that probably didn't generate. I know this sounds like a long time ago, but they really didn't generate from there.
Do you think they might have retired some of their real star players, all too many of them at the same time? I remember when Brad Scott retired guys like Brent Harvey, Drew Petrie, Michael Ferrito, and Nick Del Santo. I think all four of them were retired at the one time. I thought that was a heck of a lot of experience out of the team at the one time. I didn't think that was a very wise decision to retire them all at the one time.
Yeah, they got Higgins.
And I know Brent Harvey could easily have gone on for another year or two.
I agree. They got players like probably Del Santo probably could have played a bit longer. But
when did Waite go there? Well, I think you'll find that Waite went there at the end of 2014 and played 2015, 16, 17, and 18. I think he played 4 seasons there.
That's right. Yeah. So I think there was all of those problems, and it's sort of a club that sort of probably couldn't reinvent itself after that sort of 2000 decade, that one decade after 2000 when their stars aged. So that's my view. But when the AFL sneezes, North Melbourne will definitely catch a cold, if you know what I'm saying. Like, they're not financially big enough and strong enough that if everything is working really, really well, I think from a resource perspective, they're going to be the first club to be exposed. So it's always hard.
And also, let's look at it. They don't have a huge supporter base. Their membership's probably half of Carlton's, if not less. Yeah. How are teams like that going to survive?
Well, that's where the equalisation comes in, because those teams were brought in that 1930s era, I think, Vince, if you go back. So they say it's a lost generation of supporters, supposedly, but it's always going to be harder for those teams. But
I do wonder for how much longer Victorian teams can continue to survive in their numbers. I mean, we've got 10 teams in Victoria, including Geelong. That's 9 in Melbourne. I do wonder how many of us can actually continue to operate profitably, successfully, and sustainably.
I'll tell you why that's a problem. I'll tell you why that's a problem in my view. Because now, once in the old days, if you grew up in the northwestern suburbs, you barracked for Essendon. If you grew up in the western suburbs, you barracked for Footscray, right? You grew up in the northern suburbs. I'm not suggesting zoning or street demarcation or whatever, but there was regions, pockets. Now it's scattered. Now a kid at school doesn't align themselves to any team other than the team that's winning at the time or the logo they like on the jumper, unless their dad, someone like me, buys
unless their dad says, unless you follow this team, you're not living under my roof.
Absolutely, which I think that more dads should do, more parents should do that, but that's another story. But you've got that right now. Why are you going to support North Melbourne? Why is a kid going to, unless the dad forces them? Why is it?
Well, this is the other thing. I do worry about their brand.
Yeah, I go to the footy and I look at parents and their kids. And I don't know, you've done the same, Vince. I know you used to be behind the glass, but now you're with the common folk, right? But you look at parents and their kids and you think, how does that kid go? And the dad's probably seen some good years. I look at the dad, he might be 50 or whatever. And how does that poor kid put up with this, going to this, watching this all the time? And the dad's got to try and find positives in the game in the car, on the train, on the way home, to say to the kid, "Hey, look, we're building something. Oh, we're not far off. Oh, gee, he had a good game, etc., etc." Because you're so worried, the kid will switch teams or something. It's not easy, is it? Not in these days. But sorry, Cassandra's got a comment here again.
Ha 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 ha! I was told I'd be homeless if I follow Collingwood. Well, the problem with Collingwood fathers enforcing those sorts of rules over their kids is that most of the time they're actually living in jail. And their kids have to come and see them on weekends. I'm only kidding, by the way, if you haven't already gathered.
Yeah, but look, a lot of that's not look like it used to be, as it, Vince, all of that, I think. No. Yeah. So what does a kid now look at the footy and want to support?
Yeah, North Melbourne.
I'm not criticising. I'm just saying as an example, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you do worry about their brand. I mean, even when Carlton was on the bottom of the ladder and struggling and basically, wallowing in mediocrity for 20 years, we have never stopped having that supporter base. That Carlton logo is always iconic for lots of different reasons. And the minute we turned the corner, which we seem to have done this year, that supporter base was always going to sort of reignite like a little fire that had just been simmering, and all of a sudden there's petrol poured on it. Now, I don't think North Melbourne has that. I just don't think they have a brand or an identity, if you like, that resonates with young people.
But the league also, Vince, doesn't want clubs to have that anymore either. In this, I know you don't get me started on this one, but the sanitisation, the corporatisation of football, the home grounds are gone. Supporters don't really cross-pollinate with each other anymore. The old days of knowing people that you knew that went to the footy together and so forth.
Let's catch up at the pub up across the road from the Prince's Park or whatever it might be.
Yeah, all of that stuff
doesn't happen.
No, it's and the games are on at all different times, and it's really all just to maximise the dollar, and that.
So it's a television sport.
Yeah, tribalism's gone. Absolutely.
And it's a television sport. Yeah.
Absolutely. And another comment here from Cassandra, which I think is really, if you look at Geelong, a regional team like that, they've got that advantage, haven't they?
They do, and they were smart enough to hold on to their home ground and redevelop it and pay back all of their debt and all of that, and now they're flying. And absolutely,
it helps if you're. But it does help if you're in a marginal state and federal electorate, though, Vince, to be able to do that for pork bellying and pork barreling, and all the rest of it, because you can obviously manipulate that. But Carlton's relationship with the Melbourne City Council was never the best one, was it?
Oh, yeah, I guess so. I don't know. I just think when there's a will, there's a way. If we really wanted to stay at Carlton and at Prince's Park, I don't think all of the avenues were explored properly.
No. I felt didn't want to stay.
Yeah, but if we had really pursued it, like anything, if you really pursue something hard because you believe in it, you can make it happen.
The boards we had.
I don't think that at the time we had a board where you had Ian Collins, who was running, Telstra Dome at the time, which is what we now call Marvel Stadium, and it would have been a big feather in his cap to get Carlton to play its home games there instead of at Prince's Park. And as soon as that happened, I thought, that's it. It's curtains for us. We're not going to be playing at Prince's Park for much longer. And that's exactly what happened.
And then if you remember, Graham Smorgan came in and he had that idea to put retail shops and the childcare centre at the back of the Legends stand. Talk about not being able to read the room. For a supposed smart businessman, that was that was lunacy, wasn't it?
Is it any wonder why he wasn't re-elected at the following election? Then they had to go and get Richard Pratt and get him to come back. Anyway, we won't go over all.
We're going back through all of that stuff. Yeah. Anyway,
Anyway, quick prediction for this week: Carlton or GWS, and by how much?
Carlton should win by 6 goals.
6 goals. Well, I'm predicting Carlton by 7 goals. So I think we're both on the same wavelength around that mid-30s to mid-40s type range in terms of winning margin. So I do think Harry Mackay will want to hit back hard this week. He had a very poor match on the weekend. We should be interesting to see what the team selection side of things does this week with Pitnet and McGovern having played last week in the VFL. And, of course, with Will Hayes now being suspended for 2 weeks. Be interesting to see what changes we make to the team this week. Now, before we sign off, and we've already been going for nearly 10 minutes over.
You get me started on those issues.
I can't help but want to talk a little bit about the unbelievable finish to the British Open Golf Championship last night, the 150th edition of the Open, and at that beautiful, beautiful golf course, the original home of golf, St Andrews, the old course. What a magnificent venue it is. What a fantastic golf course, and 4 of the best days of golf you'll ever see. We were spared any of those days that we usually see at St Andrews where there's, rain and hail and gusting winds everywhere. We didn't have any of those sorts of days.
The course was
the players were able to play some pretty good golf and hit those greens and roll in those putts. And our own Australian little champ this year, Cameron Smith, who won the Players' Championship back in March at TPC Sawgrass, that other iconic golf course in Florida. Yep. He went out there and showed what he was made of, and despite having a relatively average day on the 3rd round, came back in that final round and shot an 8 under par, bogey-free 64, and won by 1 stroke. Fantastic performance.
The course was as dry as a chip compared to, we normally see it as really green and lush. So it did allow a lot of the holes to play a bit shorter. But that being said, you still had to be accurate because the ball was certainly running a long way on the fairway.
Yeah.
Also made it hard and fast, so you had to be able to be really good around the greens, and that was really where Cam Smith stepped up. He had 19 less putts than Rory McIlroy, beat him by a stroke, but had 19 less putts. Now, if you're going to win a major, you've got to hold those, 5, 6, 10 footers. Yeah, absolutely. And he got them, right? And more importantly, although he had that third round where he wasn't putting so well, but he hit the ball reasonably.
I don't think he was putting poorly. They just weren't quite dropping.
Yes,
but
exactly.
He had one bad hole on that third day, the 13th hole, which resulted in a double bogey where his ball finished up just near the bunker without going into it, but it meant that he didn't have a proper stance, and he went for a bit of an ambitious second shot, whereas he probably just should have hit it back out onto the fairway, taken his medicine, and maybe played for a bogey. In the end, it cost him another shot, and it was a double bogey. But other than that little incident there, geez, it was almost impeccable, mistake-free golf for 4 days by Cam Smith.
Oh, absolutely. And it just goes to show his mental capacity, right? I mean, and especially the crowds were all wanted to,
wanted Rory McIlroy to win. Yeah.
So the 150th Open held at, the home of golf. I mean, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity really to be in that position with a chance of winning. And he's gone.
McIlroy played unusually. So I mean, he's known for his flair and his preparedness to take risks and excite the fans with some of the shots that he plays. He was very conservative on that final day. I just felt like he never really got out of second gear. He
didn't want to lose, I think. The pressure...
Rather than playing to win, he was playing to not lose. But it's never going to work that way, is it?
Well, no. And the pressure that he was under, it's hard to... You talk about the fishbowl effect of the media and everything. But Rory has just all that pressure of the UK on his shoulders.
Of course, yeah.
It's very difficult, and
even though it's an Irishman in Scotland,
but Northern Irish, but yes,
Northern Ireland,
even worse. But anyway, they still do support him. So, look, great result though for him, and the other Aussies did pretty well as well.
It was a tremendous tournament for the Australian golfers. I mean, Adam Scott, of course, he also finished up at 10 under together with Lucas Herbert, who won in Bermuda late last year, if you recall. And another young Australian golfer called Anthony Quayle. I'd never heard of him, but he finished at 10 under as well.
Yep, and Minwoo Lee also was at 4 under, so made the cut as well. So, yeah.
Minwoo Lee finished at 9 under.
Oh, 9 under, sorry.
So... And there were a couple of other Aussies that finished around the 4 under mark. I think, I'd have to look it up. But look, there was at least half a dozen of us. The only Aussie that missed out on the cut was Mark Leishman, funnily enough. I think he finished with 6 over after the first 2 rounds and was never going to make the cut. But the cut was at even par after 2 rounds. So you had to have shot even or better to make the cut. That's unusual at the old course at St Andrews itself.
Normally 3 or 4 over. You're looking at for a major, especially at a course like that. So that was.
But Cam Smith got off to a solid start. The first round, he shot 5 under, a very solid 5 under round of 67. He was only 3 shots off the pace with from the young. Another Cameron Young, the American who was playing in his first ever Open Championship, and he did really well. He was the one that came second by only the 1 shot, shooting an eagle on the last hole to force Cameron to putt that last 2-footer, which I thought he was never going to miss. But nevertheless, a little bit of extra pressure. And he shot that eagle on the last hole to finish at 19 under. And then, of course, Rory McIlroy finished at 18 under after shooting only a 2 under 70 for the final round. But, 8 under 64 by Cameron Smith on both days 2 and 4. That's something I don't think you'll ever see. Two rounds of 64 at at St Andrews is incredible golf.
It is. Just pinch yourself being an Australian sports fan, don't you? I mean,
yeah.
The week before, I'm up at 2:30 watching Wimbledon final, and then you're doing the same thing watching the British Open. I mean, we really do bat way above our weight in a lot of these sports, and to have it's just to get the magnitude of the achievement. It is so difficult. From a global perspective, there are so many countries that are competing at this level, and there's so many great players around the world that have come to play this tournament from all tours. It's just a huge achievement.
It is indeed. Yeah, I guess we should mention, Nick Kyrgios making the final of Wimbledon 1 year after Ash Barty won the women's at Wimbledon. So, we've done very well there in the tennis in the last couple of years, and now to have Cameron Smith winning 2 major tournaments. One technically is the major, being the British Open, but the other one is considered to be like the 5th major, the Players' Championship in Florida. They're 2 huge wins, and now that's catapulted him up to number 4 in the world.
That's right.
After the win last night.
Yeah, and that's probably well, it's deserved. He arguably could be even possibly even better than that by the end of the year. Let's hope.
And if you remember, he also won the first tournament of the year
in Hawaii,
the Century Championship in Hawaii, where he shot a record 34 under par to beat John Rahm by 1 stroke. Who was the world's number 1 at the time, if you remember, John Rahm. He shot 33 under, and they were going head for head, toe to toe, birdie after birdie after birdie after birdie, and it was an incredible tournament there in Hawaii at the start of this year. That really set the tone for Cameron Smith's year, didn't it?
Absolutely. It's a huge achievement, nonetheless. So well done to Cameron Smith.
Yep. There's Joe Lotzer.
Sorry, Vince and Steve. I thought I'd just jump in and say a quick hello. Hey? I thought I'd just jump. Sorry, I took over the control, Steve. I just thought I'd pop in and say hello.
Yeah, no problems. Joe, how are you?
Not bad.
You're looking very official with that tie on there, Joe.
Court appearances. So I hear you talking about the golf.
Well, we're sorry to sort of talk about it, but it was such a huge achievement that we thought it was worth discussing. And Steve and I, as you know, are golf nuts, but hopefully our listeners and viewers out there are just as excited as we are about Cameron Smith's fantastic win in the Open Championship last night.
Hopefully they are. And what did we decide about the Blues? Are we on the train? Are we off the train?
I think what we basically concluded is that it was a reality check, and that we're not quite up to top 4 level, and we've still got a lot to learn, and our players need to play with each other for a bit longer. A lot of the Geelong team have been playing together for years now, and this will take time. They've got a lot of players in their 30s. We haven't got any, and they're playing like a very mature outfit, and that's one of the reasons why they're on top of the ladder.
Talking of players in their 30s, I hear Ed Curnow broke down in the VFL on the weekend.
Yeah, we didn't mention that, but yes, it looks now very unlikely that Ed Curnow is going to come back and play unless he decides to go on again next year and the club's happy for him to do so. I think you'll find that there might be an announcement before the end of the home and away season. And look, I think for Ed to probably be carried around in a car on the perimeter of the MCG in round 23 against Collingwood would be a nice way for him to go out.
Yeah, I think
doing the raw. Sorry, Steve.
Yeah, I was going to say I think Ed really needs that respect. He epitomises all the values that the players should aspire to, considering being really carrying that midfield during those dark years, really, really playing a role, selfless, trying to, mentor the young players coming through and the like. So I think he certainly needs to be honoured.
He may just be a permanent VFL player because I'm sure he might impart some knowledge to younger players, but it's a sort of experience you don't want to lose, really.
Agreed.
Yeah, but he might be able to do that next year if he wants to, but not as a senior list player.
No, that's what I mean. That's what I mean.
Yeah, and whether he goes into coaching or what his next move is, that will be an interesting.
Yeah, he could well do.
He's always been a great clubman, Ed, and he's often won the best clubman award at Best and Fairest nights. So he's very well liked, very well respected. And look, I think all Carlton supporters, whether you like the way he played or not, and I know he's had his knockers as well, you'd have to acknowledge his loyalty, his dedication, and his service to the Carlton Footy Club.
Isn't the best clubman the guy that usually organises the beers and the end of season trip? That's why Vince won it 10 years in a row at the Carltonians. he was an undefeated champion. You know how the guy last night was 20 under. Vince had that in the first 5 years in the club. Now, listen, I don't want to hijack your show, so I just want to say
no, that's all right. We're pretty much ready. You might as well stay because we're about to sign off.
Oh, okay.
We'll give your prediction for the Carlton GWS game next week, Joe.
Well, based on current trend, and I am an analyst, win-loss, 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 loss, win. So I've got a coin. I think it's a win. Well, look, if we can't beat GWS, we shouldn't be in the finals, right? That's, and I'm sure Steve and yourself will agree. If we can't beat GWS, and Adelaide coming up. I know Adelaide are a good team, but they struggle. I think they did okay over Collingwood, but I think we should win. I mean, I don't know if Harry will have another quiet day. He was convincingly beaten by DeConing or whatever you want to call him. So let's hope for our sakes that if Charlie has the quiet day, then Harry steps up or vice versa. But
yeah,
we might be getting Pitternet back. We might be getting McGovern back. But we'll discuss that on Wednesday. We might know a little less than before, so we'll see what happens. But I think the Blues should win. No, I think the Blues will win. There you go.
How much?
Yeah. How long's a piece of string?
Come on, we've been up. Steve reckons 6 goals. I reckon 7 goals. How many goals do you think we'll win by?
Depending on the weather. If it's a fine day,
it's Marvel Stadium. It's Marvel Stadium and the roof's closed.
6 goals.
Okay, exactly like Steve. All right.
Harry to kick 5. I think he'll be a bit annoyed. But anyway, thanks for letting me join on. I'll let you go, and I'll see.
No worries, and we look forward to
Wednesday night.
We look forward to seeing yourself and Chris Beach on the
librarian
unofficial team selection or something like that.
No, something like that.
Match
section by section.
Yeah. Thanks, Steve. All right,
Wednesday at 8:00. Don't forget to tune in, everyone, to Joe and Beachy as they dissect the team selections.
See you guys.
Good on you, Joe. See you, mate.
All right. Well, Vince, I think that wraps it up. That wraps it up for us today, doesn't it?
It certainly does, and we'll see you all next Sunday night at around 8:00 for another edition of In the Blue Corner. Until then, have a great week and go Blues.
Go Blues.
Cheers.